This video will provide a brief overview of the development of and proposal for the projects in the North Shore School District 2018 Technology Levy. A core belief that underlies all of the work that has been done to develop the projects that you'll see and hear about in this presentation comes from our school board policy on diversity and equity. We believe it is a fundamental right of all students to have an equitable educational experience within North Shore School District programs and services. We are focused on closing the opportunity and achievement gaps and creating learning communities that provide supportive and enriching experiences for all North Shore students. These are guiding principles in the Technology Advisory Committee's development of the projects proposed for this levy cycle. Let's start with a little understanding of how levy and bond projects get created and proposed to the levy. This process begins with some informal data gathering through conversations, communications with principals, with students, with families across the district, and other community stakeholders. We then formalize this data collection by conducting some formal surveys, the main survey being one that is sent to all staff regardless of their job assignment. We couple that survey data with best practices and research, and then start to think about some cost estimates for the things that are being proposed through stakeholder input. The Technology Advisory Committee then takes that information and consolidates it into a package of projects to propose to the school board. The Technology Advisory Committee's charge is to look at a variety of data, information, and research, and think about how technology can impact particularly those learning goals that we hold most dear as our core mission. The TAC's job was to make a recommendation for the 2018 levy in terms of the projects that the school board should support moving forward and to bring to the taxpayers. The Technology Advisory is comprised of a collection of community members, instructional staff, and administrative staff to guarantee and ensure that we represent the voices of all stakeholders. Let's dig a little deeper and look at the review of the data and research and the projects that were recommended by the TAC for the 2018 Technology Levy. One of the first sets of data that the TAC looked at was the Levy Planning Survey that was distributed to all staff members, regardless of their job assignment. This survey included questions about perceptions related to the success of previous levy projects, as well as open-ended questions asking folks to give their input on potential new projects. The results of this particular survey were significant because of the high response rate, including a 40% teacher participation rate, which might on the face of it seem low, but that's very, very good for past surveys in terms of teacher participation in particular. We also had participation from principals, teacher librarians, and we had good representation from all schools. As mentioned before, we had a high percentage of teachers that responded to the survey, as well as a variety of other job positions represented in the results. Among the questions asked about potential new projects and new capacity was a question about the saturation of student computing devices across the district. In summary, almost 90% of our respondents either supported or strongly supported the idea of increasing the number of computing devices for students to get us to a 1-to-1 student-to-device computing ratio across the district. In addition to looking at internal survey data, it was important for the Technology Advisory Committee to also review external sources of research and data, such as the Partnership for 21st Century Skills Roadmap to 21st Century Learning Environments document, the 2017 Horizon Report, which talks about emerging trends in educational technology, tried and true resources like Project Red's Revolutionizing Education Through Technology paper on one-to-one implementations, and also the National Department of Education's information in the Educational Technology Plan for districts around the country. The TAC then took all of this information and through a variety of activities, meetings, discussions, and two-way communication between stakeholders and the committee itself, drafted a set of project recommendations that they then brought to the school board in the spring of 2017. Let's take a closer look at those proposed projects that the TAC recommended to the school board for approval in June through August of 2017. You can see a list of the proposed 2018 Technology Levy projects here. The list on the left represents projects that the Technology Advisory Committee felt would directly benefit our instructional programming. These include one-to-one computing access for students, an assistive technology program to help differentiate for students with and without IEPs and 504s, professional development, innovation support, staffing, and systems to support the instructional work that we do, such as data analytics, presentation systems, and a learning management system. There are also projects that fall in the less glamorous category of infrastructure and operations projects. Those include a new fiscal and HR system, print services, some technology support staff, and maintenance of our existing software infrastructure. Together, all of these projects comprise a foundational opportunity for us to reach our goals around the core mission of teaching all students to their best potential, as well as being a fiscally prudent business. The projects outlined for the 2018 Technology Levy will support students in reaching some essential goals. With support, we want students to be able to use technology when, how, and where they need it. That means having one-to-one access that may or may not include the taking of a device home. We want all students to be able to use technology appropriately and responsibly. And to do that, we will need to increase their instruction and exposure to digital citizenship concepts. And we want to be able to leverage assistive technologies to support differentiation for all students based on their particular learning goals.
Hi, I'm Margie White, and I teach 7th grade social studies, Washington State history at Canyon Park Middle School. And today we've been working on a project to wrap up our unit on the settling of Washington State. And we're working on Google Classroom, where they have folders with all of the information, the documents that they need in order to complete this task. And so they can flip between folders and get all of the background information, documents, examples, and it's all in one place. And so having that ability is amazing. This is the first time I've been able to do that. The other thing that I'm really appreciating is the fact that we have enough computers for everybody in the class. And so we can work on an assignment here at school where I can help them and get all the information taken care of and just be able to have the luxury of one-to-one computers where you have what you need instead of having to wait for the other class or wait for the other person to be done. It makes all the difference in the world because we can keep moving, we don't have to pause, we don't have to stall, we don't have to wait. This is 21st century education, and I'm loving it. It's absolutely fabulous, and I look forward to having even more opportunities to do stuff like this.
Jenny Gardino, STS at Lockwood Elementary. We have amazing students who are hungry to learn, and so when they have access to technology and devices ready to grab and research something or collaborate on their writing, it helps them use that momentum to move forward in their learning.
One-to-one in an elementary classroom could come in the form of a cart of devices in each classroom that would give the teacher and the students ready access to the devices when and where they needed them. Teachers would have professional choice over when to use those devices and to what extent. In some cases, it might be a teacher modeling some practices on a device that he or she pulls from the cart. In other cases, it might be using those devices in group settings or in individual settings to ensure just-in-time instruction right at the level of the learner. At other times, it might be best for a teacher to use a device to differentiate for a specific child. These projects also provide some great support for staff who will want to use technology to use data to inform their instructional practices. The Data Analytics Project and the Professional Development Project will directly support that goal. We also want teachers and other staff to be able to use technology to communicate effectively with families. The learning management system and operational systems projects will support that directly. And of course, we want staff to be able to use technology in a one-to-one environment and using assistive technologies to differentiate for each student based on their particular needs. All of these goals and all of these projects relate directly to the work that we've done to put together our strategic plan. In particular, 2 examples jump out of the strategic plan that underpin all of the technology projects we've discussed here. First is the measure that says we should have an increased percentage of students who use appropriate technology and digital tools to facilitate classroom instruction projects, collaborative learning, and informed decision making. We also know that technology for learning is important. The strategic plan directs us to provide all students access to technology-based resources as an integral learning tool for conducting research, evaluating information, and communicating their findings and solutions. And the TAC believes that the best way to do this is to provide a device when and where kids need it, and that means a one-to-one environment, as well as the systems and infrastructure to make that implementation successful. Next steps include, of course, getting out the vote on February 13th, 2018. Then we'll move on to creating implementation teams who can help with ensuring that we have a successful implementation that reflects the needs and input of all stakeholders, including community members and families. You can learn more about 2018 Bond and Levy initiatives by visiting our website at www.nsd.org/2018 bond levies.